If you want to get a cooler, beefier stance on your 2004 and newer F-150 without having to spend a bunch of money to do it, then this front leveling kit will be exactly what you're looking for. Providing you with 2.5 inches of lift up front, this will give your truck some extra height to work with and will level out the stance, giving it a nice injection of attitude. Quick note on fitment here before we dive in, this kit will fit all 2004 and newer F-150s that are not equipped with the CCD adjustable suspension system, and it also will not fit on Raptor models. First things first, let's talk tire size. With this kit fitted, you will be able to fit up to 35-inch tires on your truck. Now, if you are running high offset wheels, you may encounter some rubbing, but most will fit without the need for other modifications. Now, most trucks come from the factory with a bit of forward rake to them, and the F-150 is one of the biggest culprits. If you're not familiar with the term, rake refers to the angle at which the vehicle sits. So if you're looking at it from the side, you'll notice that the front end tends to sit a bit lower than the rear. Now, some might like that look, but if you're looking to do any off-roading, or if you just want to add some more clearance for those larger wheels and tires without going whole hog on a lift kit, something like this is going to be the right option for you. Now, to achieve that lift, we have a pair of spacers. Now, these may not actually measure 2.5 inches in actual height, but it's important to remember that suspension lifts are not one-to-one in the front end. So the height of the spacer doesn't necessarily correspond exactly to how much lift you're going to get. It all has to do with suspension geometry, and geometry was not my favorite subject in school. But just trust me when I say these are still going to give you the 2.5 inches of lift in the front of the truck. Now, these will bolt on top of your front struts and give you that lift to your front suspension, effectively extending the length of the struts. And that's going to end up leveling out the stance of the truck. Now, raising the front end will result in a better approach angle and also better overall ground clearance. It may not be a whole lot, but overall it's going to make a big difference both visually and functionally. The other nice part about going with a spacer lift is you don't have the negative impact on ride quality as you're keeping all of your factory suspension components. You may notice things being a little bit stiffer because some things have to work around it, but since you are keeping those factory springs and shocks and you're not modifying anything in the rear, ride quality will remain virtually unchanged. Now, spacers are a pretty simple thing, but it's important that they are done right. These ones in particular are CNC machined from 6061 aluminum and anodized black for additional protection against corrosion. And unlike welded or fabricated spacers, these are all one piece, so there's no welds or anything to crack, and they're super strong and should last you the lifetime of your truck. That's also good news if you plan to take your truck off-road. Pricing for this kit comes in at about $100, which is pretty inexpensive even for a spacer kit. Now, you could spend more money for more height, but if you want a simple, effective leveling kit that's going to maintain your stock shocks and stock ride quality, you really can't go wrong here. Installation will come in at a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and it should take you around 2 hours to complete the job. Now, it is going to require moving some bits out of the wheel well to gain access to the front struts, but it is overall not a hard process. Just remember that once you've got everything bolted back together, you should plan on getting a professional alignment done, since again, you are changing around the suspension geometry. So with that said, let's head out to the shop and we'll show you how to get these installed on your F-150.
For this install, you need a 3/8 impact and ratchet, a pry bar, a 21 deep and swivel socket, an 18 and 15 millimeter socket, a 27, 17 and 15 millimeter socket, a 8 millimeter Allen wrench, a marker, a hammer, and also not shown to be a lift and jacks. All right, today we're going to be installing a lift kit on our F-150, so let's get started. All right, so we're going to start off by disconnecting our sway bar link from our knuckle just to give us a little bit more movement. So we're going to grab our impact and 21 millimeter socket and take this nut off. Now we're going to get our sway bar link out. If you need to, you can use a little pry bar just to give it a little pivot to free that up. Next, we're going to disconnect our tie rod. So we're going to take our same 21 millimeter socket and take off our nut. Now you see that came loose, came out of our knuckle. If you need to, you can grab a hammer if it's stuck and just tap right here. Should break it free. Just going to let that rest down like so. We're going to switch to our 18 millimeter socket and take off our 2 nuts on the lower control arm for our strut. Now we're going to take our 2 bolts out of the back of our control arm. So I'm going to take a marker and actually just outline our nut here, just so we can put that in a similar place when going back together. This is a slotted hole, so we'll move back and forth. You will need alignment after this, so this just gets us close enough. So we're going to grab our impact and 21 millimeter socket on the head and a 27 millimeter wrench on the nut, and take both the front and the back bolts out. So let's leave that loose for now. We're gonna make sure we mark the rear bolt too. I'm gonna take this one out too. Get our bolts out. Just make sure you have a handle on this because this will swing down. We're just gonna wiggle that off of our strut studs like so. Now that the bottom of our strut is loose, we're gonna take our 15mm ratcheting wrench and take our top 3 nuts off up here. Once you get them loose, you can just spin them off. We're gonna do 2 of them, and then the last one you'll need to support the strut to help get off. So we'll spin that off and then take our strut out completely. Now that you have your factory strut out, you can go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. So now that we have our factory strut out, we can get our spacer on. We just need to do a little bit of assembly on our spacer. You're gonna see 3 spots that have threaded holes in them and then a recess on the other side. We're gonna grab 3 of our supplied Allen bolts and thread those in. And we're gonna thread these in all the way with our 8mm Allen wrench. Now you do wanna make sure that these are nice and tight, because when you're tightening your strut top, when it's in the truck, if they are not tight, they'll just spin back down and be loose and be a real pain to get out. Just make sure you crank these down. You can even throw some Loctite on if you want. Now that they're tight, we're gonna grab our strut. Now this is only gonna go on the top of our strut one way, so you just need to line it up on the other 3 spots. We're gonna go ahead and grab our factory nuts that hold the top of the strut on, and they'll bolt through to hold our spacer on. So we'll grab our ratchet and our 15mm socket. Now you're gonna want to use a chrome socket because it does get tight in there, so if you use an impact, it will get stuck. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those down. All right, now we can go ahead and get this in our truck. So now we'll get our strut up in place. Just gonna line everything up. Now we're gonna get our supplied washers and nuts and just thread them on first. We have our flat washer and then our locking nut. We'll get these 3 loosely installed, and then we'll worry about the bottom. All right, so once we have all this thread on, now we're gonna raise our vehicle up and jack up our lower control arm and get that back in place. So now we have our truck raised up, we're gonna get our lower control arm on the studs for our strut and then get back up into our subframe. Now you can do this on the ground, but you will need a couple of jacks. We're gonna use both our pole jacks and jack up both sides to get it lined up. It is a little bit harder since it is taller now. But we're just gonna thread on our nuts for our strut loosely here, just to help hold that on. And as you can see, it kind of doesn't go up there, kind of stops about there. So we'll get both our pole jacks, get this raised up. Kind of just raise this up evenly and walk it into place. All right, as you can see, we did switch to a couple floor jacks to lower the truck down. The pole jacks were slipping off and are making it a little bit more dangerous than I like. So we're doing it a little bit more safer here. We got our floor jacks under here and our control arm in place. Just gonna get our bolts through. Need to give it a little tap with your hammer. Right on your nut. And same thing for the other side. All right, now we can get our floor jacks out of the way and raise our truck back up and tighten everything down. So next we're gonna grab our 27mm wrench to hold our nut, impact, and 21mm socket. Go ahead and tighten these down. Now we're gonna get it snugged and adjust it into our marks that we made. Just grab our pry bar and get in there. Same thing for the front one. This should be pretty lined up since that other one is. We're gonna switch to our 18mm socket and tighten down our 2 nuts on the bottom of our strut. Then go back to our 21mm deep socket, get our tie rod in, and tighten that down. Last thing we need to do up here is get our sway bar link back in. So let's grab a pry bar and just align that up. Thread our nut on and grab our impact and 21mm socket, and tighten that down. Now once you have this side put back together, you can go to repeat all those same steps on the other side of the truck. And that wraps up our install of our 2.5-inch front leveling lift kit for our 2004 and newer F-150 without CCD system, excluding the Raptor. And remember, for everything F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.